Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited today to share with you the large die of the month for November 2022 from Spellbinders. It's a slimline die set and I am going to use it to make 3 different cards for you today. A little fall, a little Christmas, a little Valentine's. So here's the die set. There are 8 dies in the set and we're going to look at all the pieces die cut out. This is my favorite. It die cuts the word happy birthday into this little banner with one pass of the die. Love it. There's a leaf and layers to put behind the leaf that you can alternate the colors. You can have 2 colors behind the leaf. These are the Kaleidoscope pieces. So they're pieces that you layer together to create a kaleidoscope type effect. And I think this one is very pretty with a flower in the center, the paper pieced dots all around the edge, and then it's got this really fancy floral piece you can layer on top. Love it. And it fits perfectly into the little, almost like a octagon shape there in the middle. So let's go ahead and make one card with this and just show you the basics of how it all works. So there is a slimline die that's going to cut a piece of paper that's approximately 8 inches by 3 inches, and then the detailed piece fits right inside. You can cut these both at the same time, and then you're going to get a piece that is removed from the cardstock you cut it from, and it has the 3 octagon pieces in the middle, and then it's got almost like a grid pattern that looks as if it's behind those pieces, and a really cool paper pieced or like, what is that? Piercing, paper piercing, the little tiny dots all the way around the edge of this border and of the octagons. So lots of detail in here. I mounted that to the same size piece of paper in kind of a rust color, and then I mounted it onto my 8.5 by 3.5 inch slimline card base. Now I'm going to go ahead and put those kaleidoscope pieces together. You can offset the flower in the center so the one behind it shows a little bit, and I love that. And then this is the detailed piece that I cut from some silver cardstock, which I think the metallic on this is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and make 3 of those, and then I will glue one to each of those pieces. So this is just like the main way to put your card together, and I thought like a fall color scheme would be really fun for somebody who has a November birthday, maybe like my sister. Yeah. Okay, for my leaf, I taped the 2 pieces together on so that they would stay side by side, easier to glue the kind of skeleton type of leaf over the top. I wanted one side to be different, but just like a shade darker, so I colored over this kind of minty green cardstock with my G12 Copic marker, and then I have my 2-toned leaf. I can glue that down and then remove the tape once it's dry. I did not pop up my little octagon flowers, so I had to do a little card surgery in order to get them behind my octagon. Sometimes I get a little like excited and ahead of myself and think, oh, should have done the leaves first, but you know, it's all fun and we can always fix it, right? So trimmed those down. I tucked them behind the first and the last octagon flower, as I decided to call them, I guess. And then for my happy birthday, I actually die cut it from that lighter, almost mint colored cardstock, and I'm adhering it down to the darker, it's like a teal, a jade green. I don't know. It's delicious. I've had it in my stash for 100 years, and so I'm using it up. I'm using some of it today, and that makes me happy because it's such a good color. So I'm going to stick that right in the middle, but I decided it would be better popped up. So I have a little piece of foam strip, but I did put a little glue on there too because it's going over so many like bumpy layers. And then I'm adding these silver pearls to the center of each of those flowers to add a little bit of embellishment. And there it is. I mean, it's really kind of quick and easy to put together once you get all your pieces die cut. And I will tell you, a precision tip glue helps a lot with that top layer of the kaleidoscope flower. Okay, let's make a Christmas card, and it's a shaker because I Love shaker cards. So I took a piece of paper that's 8 1/4 by 3 1/4, and I'm going to die cut just the detailed portion of the slimline dies, not using that outer frame. That's going to make the border around this panel a little bit wider and allow me to make a shaker card. So now I'm going to take one of those Kaleidoscope pieces and cut out, it's the base piece that I'm using to cut out the center of those Kaleidoscope flowers, and then I just have that frame that has the pierced detail in it. And then I've got the 3 pieces I can use another time. So I'm going to turn this into a shaker by adding glue to the back of the frame and then adhering to that a window sheet. So my window sheet, I try to cut it just like a fraction smaller than the size of the paper I'm gluing it down to. Also, the glue could easily squish out on this, so I like to wait a minute before I press down on the glue so it doesn't squish out on those tiny little spaces, and then I just put some heavy blocks. Now this piece right here is quite detailed, and I'm trying to cut it from heavyweight cardstock. So what I decided to do is pull out my secret weapon, these square cutting plates from Spellbinders, and then you can turn this, rotate the plates itself, and cut it from all 4 directions, and it really helps all those little pieces fall out. So I wanted to show you that. Okay, I'm going to use 2 shades of red cardstock, and then my top layer will be white, and I want to show you how to stitch this, because you can stitch this. It has those cool openings, but you want to stitch it before you glue it to the base. Glue the 2 top layers together and then the base, because the base doesn't have all the same holes. I'm going with some really dark red thread, and I like to separate my thread down the middle. Now the holes in this are a little bit bigger than regular stitching dies, so you wouldn't actually need to separate it out, but I'm going to tape it to the back. My little tail, I'm taping it to the back, and I went through the center hole on that bottom row, and then that is going to be my point that I go back into every time. So I stitched 1 over to the left, and then I'm going to start in a fanning motion along that top row. Every time I'm going back down through that center hole on the bottom row, and I am stitching right over the top of that white detailed die cut that is on top. So this is going to just give me a little fan, and every time I'm going up through the one on the top row and then down through that center hole on the bottom row, and that creates that fan look, and it is really pretty, really good. And my thread is a lot thinner, but I think the thicker thread would stand out even more. So you're just going to repeat that, and if you have a long enough thread, you can do the whole entire piece all at once. And look here, you can see how it's coming together. So here is a look at the completed first section. There we go. And then let's see what it looks like when I've done all the sections. Isn't that pretty? And if you do the same color thread, it's going to be more subtle, but you could really do a contrasting color and have it stand out. I mean, you know, with colors, your possibilities are endless just by switching out the color. I love that. So I glued it now to the base piece. And then I'm going to put a heavy block on this because I had to glue it by putting glue on the back of the thread. Now I'm going to put all the pieces onto my window sheet, and you can see I have just that detailed layer of the Kaleidoscope flower I'm gluing to my other windows to help it have more detail, but you can still see through it. And now I have this gorgeous stamp set from Simon Hurley carried in the shop at Spellbinders. I'm going to use that branch and stamp a background that's similar to this paper. I have the paper in my stash, but it's the only piece I have. It's not big enough for a background for a slimline card, so I thought I would try to recreate it by using some dark green ink and light green paper and just stamping. And you can see I'm stamping more than one time before re-inking my stamp. That's called second generation stamping, and I am filling up this entire background. Once it's full, then I wanted to add some splatter because the original paper has some snow in the background as well. So I have my distress paint in Picket Fence, and I'm going to splatter that right onto this card just by dragging it on the edge of this piece of window sheet. And that's going to add a snowy texture that is so beautiful. So that needs to dry because it's paint, and I will get the rest of my shaker card ready while I'm waiting for that. that. So I have some foam strips here I'm adding all the way around so that I can trap my shaker bits, which happen to be white sand that I got in a place that sells like stuff to make a fairy garden. It was like $1 for that little can, but it makes the best snow. So once the background is dry, I can add this to trap in all those shaker bits. And there's the shaker. Doesn't it look like snow? It's so fun. So I'm going to shake that around so you can hear that. So good. I love it. Okay, I was pretty proud of how my background turned out. It gave me that look of pine behind my shaker, just like that pattern paper would have. Okay, I have a Merry Christmas sentiment. This Merry Christmas is from the October Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the Month from Spellbinders. So I pulled that out because I had it from last month, ran it through with some brass foil on the dark red cardstock I used for my shaker card. And then you can see I have a perfect sentiment to add. You can pull out any Merry Christmas from your set to add to this card. I think, you know, we have an abundance of those in our stash, right? So you can stamp one and add it. I did die cut this out with the coordinating die as well as 2 additional pieces, you know, to kind of puff it up a little bit. So it'll be nice and thick and stand up off of my card. That I will just glue down to the center. Again, I really held it in place a little extra because I'm gluing it over the top of the thread and the different layers. So really give it a nice long opportunity to adhere down before you do anything with it. Yeah. Okay, so this is getting added to my card base, 8.5 by 3.5. So I have a white border all the way around, and then I'll add some brass pearls, or they're kind of gold, to the center of the 2 other floral pieces. And I just love using only that skeleton part of the kaleidoscope flower and putting that in the window. Like, oh, it just made me so happy. Kind of gives it like a stained glass effect. I don't know. I like it. I hope you do too, because I'm going to use it on card number 3. We're going to use that to create a background on this Valentine's card. So I'm going to start with a square piece of paper that measures 4.5 by 4.5. That's going to allow me to fit all 4 of these pieces on here with a little space in between. This totally reminds me of like a tile, a piece of tile. Oh, I love it. So when you glue these down, you want to make sure you're deciding, is my flower in the center going to go like an X or like a plus symbol? Make sure you put them all the same, adhere them so that they're lined up with the sides on 2 sides, and then leave the middle nice and open, and that's where you can put your layered piece. Now I did use a paper towel to pick up any excess glue that oozes out around my teeny tiny thin die cuts, and it really works well, so I recommend that for you. Okay, I glued my kaleidoscope piece together, red, then pink, then white. I love the pink and red together for Valentine's Day, and I love the white detail. It almost is like frosting. So good. All right, let's add a little splatter to our background before we put everything together. I have some black metallic watercolor, just adding water to that and then splattering this on in a kind of like a diagonal. I tend to do that a lot, a diagonal. And I love splatter, so adding a splatter to my white on white background, yeah, no brainer. I'm die cutting the word love you. Now all of these dies that I'm using today, I'm going to link them for you below so you can check them out, and the stamp set. So it's all down there, even though I don't always remember the name of everything. So here I am adding the kaleidoscope to the center, and I'm using the center lines in the die cuts to help me line that up so it is centered. And then I'm adding my die cut love you, love at the top and you at the bottom, and then you have this really nice vibrant sentiment with that gold paper. I love that. The touch of metallic paper, right? It's so good. So here I couldn't decide if I should add a pearl to the center, so I just put it on the 4 flowers in the background, but I needed one in the center. Don't you agree? Right in the center of that flower. So I will add it. I will come back to it. But sometimes I just like to think about things before I commit. So I glued this down to my card base, which is a 5x5 card base. And that gave me enough time to decide, yeah, I do need a little pearl right there in the center. So there it is. With the pearls, I think it is a beautiful card. Simple, comes together pretty quick, but these die cuts are so gorgeous. It helps you make a beautiful card rather quickly. So there's 3 ideas for you. And of course you could change any of these up to be any season or all happy birthday. And just use those ideas to create with this die set. So if you're not familiar with Spellbinders club kits, I will link all of them for you below because they have so many variety of kits. Such a good deal, always great quality. And I will have new videos for you coming up very soon. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. And if you like this video, you can always tell me with a thumbs up. And of course, I love chatting with you in the comments below. So come say hi, and I'll see you again very soon. Happy stamping. Bye.